The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal ocean under the artificial stars. Jake Morrison stood in the center circle, his hands behind his back as 47 different alien species looked down at him from their high seats. The air felt thick and cold like breathing ice. He had been Earth's voice for 20 years, but today would be his last day speaking for humanity in this place. The vote counter showed numbers that made his stomach hurt. 39 species wanted humans gone from council space. 6 species chose to say nothing. Only 2 species voted to let humans stay. The math was simple and brutal. Humanity had lost. Council Prime Zethkar stood up from his crystal chair. He was tall like a building, made of living glass that caught the light and threw it back in sharp colors. His forearms moved like tree branches in wind as he spoke. His voice came through the translation machines in every human ear. The vote is finished. Humanity must leave all council space within 1 year. All human settlements, all human ships, all human people must go. This decision cannot be changed. Jake felt the words hit him like rocks. 20 years of work. 20 years of trying to prove that humans belonged among the stars with other thinking beings. All of it was ending because humans had saved a dying species when the council said no. The charges against humanity had been read 3 times. Humans were too quick to fight, the council said. Humans change planets without asking permission, they said. Humans helped the bird-like Kalari people when a terrible sickness was killing them all, even though the council had voted to let them die. The other species called it breaking the rules. Humans called it doing what was right. Captain Lisa Carter sat in the watching area, her hands closed tight into fists. She had commanded Earthships for 15 years and had seen humans die protecting council worlds. Now those same worlds were throwing her people away like garbage. Next to her, Dr. Alex Kim typed fast on his small computer, already trying to figure out what would happen to the 12 million humans living in council space. The alien delegates began to leave their seats. Some looked happy. Some looked sad. Most looked like they just wanted to go home and forget this day happened. The tall, thin Vaxi delegates whispered to each other in their clicking language. The round, furry Belden representatives rolled toward the exits without looking back. The machine-like Nexus beings simply turned off their lights and went dark. Jake watched them all go. These beings had been his friends, his partners, his allies for 2 decades. Now they were strangers again. The few who had voted for humanity stopped to touch his shoulder or speak quiet words. But even they looked afraid to be seen helping him. Ambassador Kreenash of the Kalari people approached Jake with careful steps. Her feathers were bright blue with sadness and her large eyes held tears. "We are sorry, friend Jake. Your people saved us when no one else would. We will not forget this debt." "Take care of your people, Kreenash," Jake said. "That's all we ever wanted." Dr. Alex Kim finished his calculations and walked over to Jake. His face was pale and his hands shook a little. 12 million people across 47 star systems. 300 research stations. 800 trading posts. 56 mining colonies. We have 1 year to move everything. Lisa Carter joined them. Her uniform was neat and clean, but her eyes burned with anger. "How do we move 12 million people in 1 year? Where do we take them? Earth can't hold that many. Our other worlds are already full." Jake looked around the empty hall one more time. The great dome above them showed the spinning galaxy, with tiny lights marking every council world. Soon, none of those lights would be places where humans could live. "We find a way," he said. "We always find a way." The 3 humans walked toward the exit together. Their footsteps echoed in the huge empty space. At the door, Jake stopped and turned back. The council chambers looked smaller now, less important. For 20 years, this room had seemed like the center of everything. Now it just looked like a place where scared beings made scared decisions. Outside the council building, news reporters from dozens of species waited with cameras and questions. Jake walked past them without speaking. What was there to say? Humanity had been judged and found wanting. The galaxy's greatest alliance had decided that humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too human to be trusted. That night, Jake sat in his small apartment on Council Station and wrote his final report to Earth. The words came slowly, each one heavy with the weight of failure. He told Earth's leaders about the vote, about the charges, about the year they had to leave everything behind. But as he wrote, something strange happened. The sadness in his chest began to change into something else, something harder and brighter. Humans had been thrown out of the council for helping others. They had been punished for doing what they thought was right. If that made them too dangerous for the galaxy, then maybe the galaxy wasn't as wise as it pretended to be. Jake finished his report with words that surprised him as he wrote them. The Council has made their choice. Now we make ours. We leave, but we don't disappear. We find our own way among the stars, and maybe when we're gone, they'll understand what they've lost. He sent the message and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there was humanity's future. It wouldn't be the future they had planned, but it would be theirs to make. The Council had watched as humanity was cast out, but they would also watch as humanity found something better. The next morning, ships began arriving from Earth and every human world. The Great Exodus would begin soon, but for the first time since the vote, Jake Morrison smiled. Humanity was leaving the Council, but they weren't running away. They were walking toward something new. The Council thought they were getting rid of a problem. They had no idea they were about to lose the best thing that had ever happened to them. But they would learn. In time, they would all learn. The judgment was final. Humanity's real story was just beginning. The ships came in waves like metal rain falling upward into space. Admiral Ben Tucker watched from the bridge of his flagship Resilience as another convoy of human vessels approached the jump point near Kepler 442. The mining colony below was being stripped clean, 30,000 people packing their entire lives into cargo containers and passenger pods. "Admiral, we have a problem," said Commander Ryan Clark, looking up from his communication station. "The Kalari are leaving too." Ben turned to face him. "What do you mean leaving?" Elder Kreenash just announced on every news channel in Council space. "She says wherever humans go, the Kalari follow. They're abandoning their homeworld." Ben felt his chest tighten. The Kalari had 15 billion people spread across 12 worlds. If they were all leaving Council space, this wasn't just a human exodus anymore. This was something much bigger. On the planet below, Dr. Nina Walsh supervised the careful loading of her xenobiology lab. 20 years of research samples, each one worth more than gold, were being packed into special freezing units. Her life's work studying alien plant life was moving to ships that would carry it to stars she had never seen. "Careful with Container 7, she called to the loading crew. "Those samples could cure diseases we don't even know about yet." The crew chief, a weathered man named Pete Johnson, nodded and waved his team to be extra gentle. Everyone knew this wasn't just moving day. This was the end of everything they had built in Council space. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Captain Steve Brooks commanded the transport convoy leaving the Centauri colonies. As his ships pulled away from the orbital stations, he watched something that made him call Admiral Tucker immediately. "Sir, you need to see this. The Crom miners are leaving their contracts. All of them. They're loading their families onto our ships." The Crom were short, stocky beings who looked like living rocks. They had worked Council mines for centuries, their tough bodies perfect for dangerous underground work. But now their spokesman, a gruff individual named Thok Ironside, had appeared on every mining platform with the same message. "Human way is good way. Humans help others when others need help. We go with humans now." Ben Tucker had been a military man for 40 years, but he had never commanded an operation like this. Moving 12 million humans was hard enough. Now they were moving entire alien species too. The logistics were becoming impossible. Dr. Amy Foster, the fleet's xenosociologist, worked day and night trying to understand what was happening. Her computers showed data that seemed crazy. "Admiral, it's not just the Kalari and Crom. Junior species that were never allowed full Council membership are requesting passage with our fleets. The Talari fish people, the Vex insect colonies, even some of the plant-based Verdani are trying to leave their worlds." "How many are we talking about?" Ben asked. "At last count, 43 million non-human beings want to come with us. They're calling themselves refugees from Council rule." Ben stared at the numbers on his screen. This wasn't the exile the Council had planned. This was looking more like the biggest voluntary migration in galactic history. Meanwhile, on Council Prime, the ruling body was meeting in emergency session every day. Prime Zethkar's crystal form had lost its usual bright glow and now looked dull and gray. The reports coming from across Council space were all bad. Trade networks that had run smoothly for centuries were falling apart without human shipping companies. Research stations were closing because human scientists had been the ones making most of the discoveries. Worst of all, entire species were abandoning their Council memberships to follow humanity into exile. This was not the plan. Prime Zethkar said to his inner council. We voted to remove humans, not to destroy our entire civilization. Councillor Vextar, a tall being made of living metal, clicked his mechanical fingers nervously. Perhaps we acted too quickly. The economic reports show we are losing 30% of our workforce. But pride was stronger than wisdom in the council chambers. When Councillor Blenchy suggested recalling the exile order, 42 voices shouted her down. They had made their decision, and they would live with it no matter the cost. Back in space, the human fleets were growing beyond all expectations. Ships that had started the journey carrying only humans now held dozens of different species. Families of Kalari nested next to human children. Crom elders shared stories with human grandparents. The Talari built water tanks where they could swim, while human engineers helped them design better life support systems. Captain Lisa Carter, now commanding a mixed convoy of human and alien vessels, sent regular reports back to Admiral Tucker. Sir, something amazing is happening out here. These species aren't just running away from the Council, they're choosing to build something new with us. The most surprising development came when young representatives from major Council species began sending secret messages to the human fleets. These weren't the old leaders who had voted for exile. These were younger beings who had grown up working alongside humans, who had learned human languages and human customs. Commander Sarah Wells, head of communications, brought the decoded messages to Admiral Tucker. Admiral, we're getting requests from inside Council space. Young Vaxi, junior Belden representatives, even some Nexus units. They want to know where we're going. Some of them want to come too. Ben looked at the star charts spread across his table. The human fleets were heading toward the Galactic Rim, toward unexplored space beyond Council authority. It had seemed like running away when they started. Now it felt like leading a parade. How many ships do we have now? He asked. Counting all species, we're up to 12,000 vessels, and more arrive every day. Ben Tucker had started this journey as the commander of a defeated people fleeing into exile. Now he was leading what looked like the largest volunteer migration in galactic history. The Council had thrown away humanity, and humanity was taking half the galaxy with them. As the great convoy moved toward the rim, leaving Council space behind, Ben wondered what they would find in the unknown regions ahead. But whatever was waiting for them, they wouldn't face it alone. The Council had meant to isolate humanity, but instead they had given them the greatest gift possible, the chance to build something better than what they were leaving behind. The exodus continued, growing stronger with each passing day. The fleet had been traveling for 6 months when Admiral Rachel Green first saw the rim worlds. Her ship, the Explorer, had pushed ahead of the main convoy to scout safe passage through the dangerous space at the galaxy's edge. What she found changed everything they thought they knew about the universe. Admiral Tucker, you need to see this. Rachel spoke into her communication device as her ship approached the third planet of an unnamed star system. We're looking at ruins. Big ones, and they're old. Really old. The structures stretched across an entire continent, built from materials that looked like crystal and metal mixed together. Dr. Matt Johnson, the fleet's lead archaeologist, had never seen anything like them. His scanner readings showed the buildings were at least 10 million years old, but they looked like they had been abandoned yesterday. These aren't Council ruins, Matt said as his team prepared to land. This is something else entirely. Something that built cities when the Council species were still crawling out of their oceans. The first expedition down to the planet's surface brought back discoveries that made everyone forget about their exile. The ancient builders had left behind star maps showing paths to distant galaxies. Their construction methods used forces that made Council technology look like stone tools. Most important of all, they had built a communication network that could send messages across impossible distances in seconds instead of years. Engineer Kate Davis had been in charge of setting up refugee camps for the Exodus fleet. Now she found herself building the first human city outside Council space. The planet they chose was perfect for human life, with clean air and fresh water. But more than that, it was big enough for all the species that had joined their journey. We're not building camps anymore, Kate told her construction teams as they watched Kalari atmospheric processors work alongside human terraforming machines. We're building a home. The Kalari had brought technology that could change a planet's air in months instead of years. The Crom miners found mineral deposits that were richer than anything in Council space. The small, quick Talari proved to be amazing at underwater construction. building cities beneath the planet's vast oceans. Working together, they accomplished in 1 year what the Council said should take decades. Captain Ryan Clark had been exploring the Outer Rim systems when he made contact with the first non-Council species. His ship detected energy signatures from a solar system 50 light-years beyond anything on Council maps. When he arrived, he found 3 different civilizations that had never heard of the Galactic Council. They call themselves the Wanderer Alliance, Ryan reported back to the main fleet. They've been out here for thousands of years exploring space the Council was too scared to visit, and they want to trade with us. The Wanderers were unlike anything from Council space. Some looked like living clouds of gas. Others were mechanical beings who had replaced their original bodies with metal and circuits. The third group appeared to be made of pure energy, taking solid form only when they wanted to communicate. What amazed the humans most was how eager these beings were to share knowledge. The Council had always been suspicious of new ideas, but the Wanderers treated every discovery like a gift to be shared with everyone. Dr. Sophie Martinez led the science team studying the ancient rim technology. Working with Wanderer experts in the ruins left by the mysterious builders, her teams made breakthrough after breakthrough. They developed faster space travel, better energy sources, and most incredible of all, instant communication across unlimited distances. "We can talk to Earth in real time," Sophie announced to a gathering of fleet leaders. "Distance doesn't matter anymore. We can coordinate with human colonies in the far spiral arm as easily as talking to someone in the next room." The news reached Earth and caused celebrations in every human city. More importantly, it reached the other human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Worlds that had been cut off from each other for decades could suddenly work together again. But the most shocking news came from Dr. Chris Murphy, who was monitoring communications from Council space. The reports filtering back showed a civilization in crisis. Without human innovation, several Council worlds were facing environmental collapse. The Kalari had been the galaxy's best atmospheric engineers, and without them, planets were becoming unlivable. The Crom had been irreplaceable as miners, and resource shortages were causing economic chaos. "They're losing entire star systems," Chris reported during a Fleet Council meeting. "Food shortages, energy crises, trade network failures. Some species are starting to blame the Council leadership for letting us go." Admiral Ben Tucker listened to these reports from his new headquarters on the planet they had named New Terra. The city around him was growing every day, with humans and aliens working side by side to build something the galaxy had never seen. Mixed families were forming, with human children learning Kalari songs and Crom youngsters playing human games. "Should we offer to help them?" asked Captain Lisa Carter, who now served as the civilian government's military advisor. Ben thought about the Council chambers where Jake Morrison had been humiliated 6 months earlier. He thought about the species that had voted to throw humanity away without a second thought. Then he looked out his window at Kalari children flying through the air while human and Crom youngsters played together on the ground below. "They made their choice," he said finally. "Now they live with it. We have our own future to build." That future was looking brighter every day. The Rim worlds held secrets that would take centuries to explore. The Wanderer Alliance offered friendship and knowledge beyond anything the Council had ever shared. Most importantly, the alliance of species that had chosen to follow humanity was growing stronger with each passing month. New ships arrived every week, carrying refugees from Council space. Not just aliens now, but humans who had heard about the new life being built at the galaxy's edge. Word was spreading that something special was happening in the Rim worlds. Something that made the old Council system look small and afraid. As New Terra's first-year anniversary approached, Admiral Rachel Green brought news that would change everything again. Her deep space scouts had made contact with something beyond anyone's imagination. An entire civilization that had left the galaxy millions of years ago and was now returning to see what had become of their old home. The real adventure was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the Great Exodus, and New Terra had become something no one could have imagined. The city now stretched across 3 continents, its towers reaching toward the clouds while underground levels housed the Crom communities. Kalari nesting platforms floated in the sky, connected by bridges where human children learned to fly alongside their feathered friends. President Helen Carter stood on the balcony of the Coalition Government Building, watching the morning shift change in the spaceport below. Ships from 12 different species landed and took off in perfect coordination. What had started as a refugee camp was now the capital of something unprecedented, a true alliance of equals. Madam President, the morning reports, said her aide, Dr. Chris Murphy, carrying a tablet full of updates from across Coalition space. We have 3 more star systems requesting membership this week. The Nexus Collective on Rigel 7 wants to join us, and they're bringing their entire manufacturing network. Helen took the tablet and scrolled through the numbers. The Coalition now controlled 47 star systems, with a population approaching 200 million beings from 15 different species. More importantly, they were all here by choice, working together because they wanted to build something better than what they had left behind. Admiral Scott Peterson commanded the Coalition Defense Force from his flagship, the Unity. His fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human tactical thinking combined with Kalari biotechnology and Crom engineering had created ships that could outfight anything in Council space. But the real strength wasn't in weapons. It was in the crews themselves. Bridge crew, prepare for quantum jump, Scott announced as his ship prepared to escort another convoy of refugees from Council space. His bridge staff included humans, Kalari, Crom, and 3 other species, all working together like parts of a single organism. The refugee ships they were protecting carried the latest wave of beings fleeing the increasingly harsh Council rule. Without the species that had followed humanity, the Council had become desperate and angry. They had started forcing remaining species to work longer hours for less pay, and many were finally deciding they had had enough. Dr. Chris Murphy, now the Coalition's integration specialist, processed applications from entire planets wanting to switch sides. It's not just individuals anymore, he reported to President Carter. Whole governments are voting to leave the Council and join us. The Vaxi Commerce Guilds just voted unanimously to relocate to Coalition space. The turning point came on a Tuesday morning when sensors detected something impossible, approaching New Terra. The ship was enormous. Built from materials that seemed to bend light around them, it moved through space without any visible engines, and when it sent a communication signal, the message came in perfect human English. Greetings to the Coalition of the Willing. We are the Astari, and we have been watching you with great interest. Admiral Peterson scrambled every ship in the defense fleet, but the alien vessel made no threatening moves. Instead, it simply waited in space beyond New Terra's outer moon, broadcasting a simple message asking for permission to meet with Coalition leadership. Elder Astari Veltan materialized on the government building's main conference room in a column of silver light. She appeared to be made of starlight herself, constantly shifting between solid form and pure energy. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music from a distant world. We left this galaxy long ago when its peoples chose fear over growth, safety over discovery. We have watched from distant stars as civilizations rose and fell, always hoping someone would choose a different path. President Carter felt her heart racing as she listened to the elder's words. You've been watching us? Yes. You represent something we thought was lost forever. The courage to reach beyond what is known, to help others even when it costs you everything, to build bridges instead of walls. The Astari had been watching through quantum sensors as the Coalition grew. They had seen humanity's exile from the Council, their journey to the Rim worlds, and their success in building an alliance based on cooperation instead of domination. More importantly, they had seen the Coalition's treatment of the ancient ruins and technology they had discovered. Other species would have used the ancient weapons to conquer. You used the communication systems to stay in touch with friends. Other civilizations would have hoarded the technology. You shared it with anyone who needed help. Elder Veltan gestured, and the air in the conference room filled with images of impossible beauty. Galaxies where entire civilizations lived in harmony. Star systems where poverty and war had been eliminated through cooperation. Worlds where different species had merged their technologies and cultures to create something greater than any of them could achieve alone. We offer you membership in the Intergalactic Network, the elder said, a community of civilizations that spans hundreds of galaxies, all working together to explore the universe and help each other grow. The technology exchange that followed changed everything. Coalition ships could now travel between galaxies in weeks instead of centuries. Their cities became marvels that combined the best ideas from dozens of different civilizations. Most importantly, They gained access to knowledge and resources beyond anything they had ever imagined. Captain Julia Adams commanded the first coalition mission to another galaxy. Her ship, the Pioneer, carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens on a journey that would have been impossible just months earlier. The images she sent back left even experienced space travelers speechless. Worlds where cities floated in gas-giant atmospheres, civilizations that had learned to live inside stars themselves, and beings of pure thought who had transcended physical form entirely. But the most important change was philosophical. The coalition wasn't just growing. It was becoming something entirely new. Species that had spent centuries fighting over resources now worked together to find new worlds for everyone. Beings that had never trusted outsiders were forming families with aliens from different galaxies. Back in Council space, the old government was collapsing. Half their members had left to join the coalition. Their economy was failing without the trade networks that had depended on the departed species. Worst of all, they faced threats they couldn't handle alone. Reports reached coalition intelligence of ancient machines awakening in the galactic core, consuming entire star systems as they spread outward. The Council's weakened military was helpless against technology that predated all known civilizations. As President Carter read these reports, she felt a familiar weight settling on her shoulders. The beings who had thrown humanity away in disgrace were now facing extinction, and they had no one to turn to for help except the very people they had rejected. The question wasn't whether the coalition could help. The question was whether they should. The message arrived on a Thursday morning, carried by a single Council scout ship that looked like it had barely survived its journey to coalition space. The pilot was a young Vaxi named Click Sitar, who kept his 4 eyes down in shame as he delivered the most humiliating request in galactic history. Ambassador Tony Parker, Jake Morrison's replacement and the coalition's liaison for Council affairs, read the message 3 times before he believed what he was seeing. Prime Zethkar himself, the crystal being who had cast humanity into exile 10 years earlier, was asking for help. The Devourers have consumed 17 star systems, Tony read aloud to President Carter and the Coalition Council. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our worlds cannot defend against them. We formally request immediate military assistance from the Coalition of the Willing. The silence in the council chamber lasted for a full minute. Admiral Peterson was the first to speak, his voice tight with old anger. They threw us out for helping the Kalari, called us too dangerous to exist in civilized space. Now they want us to save them. Dr. Murphy pulled up holographic displays showing the Devourer advance. The ancient machines were consuming everything in their path, turning entire planets into raw materials for their unstoppable expansion. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the Council's core worlds in 6 months. President Carter studied the star maps showing the destruction. Billions of beings lived on those threatened worlds. Many had voted against humanity's exile, and even those who hadn't deserved better than being eaten by ancient war machines. What do our military advisors say? She asked Admiral Peterson. We can stop them, Scott said without hesitation. Our ships have intergalactic network technology. The Devourers are old and powerful, but they're still using million-year-old systems. We have weapons and shields they've never seen before. But do we want to? Asked Counselor Thok Ironside, representing the Crom communities. They made it clear they didn't want our help. Maybe we should respect their wishes. The debate continued for hours. Some coalition members wanted revenge for the years of humiliation and exile. Others argued that letting billions die for the crimes of their leaders was exactly the kind of thinking that had made the Council fail in the first place. It was Elder Astari Veltan who finally offered the solution that would define the Coalition's character forever. Her starlight form appeared in the Council chamber without warning, as was her way. You face the same choice every civilization must make, she said, her musical voice filling the room. Do you become like those who wronged you, or do you become something better? President Carter looked around the council chamber at the faces of beings from 15 different species, all of whom had left their old lives behind to build something new. We help, she announced, not because they deserve it, but because it's who we are. The coalition fleet that jumped into council space 2 weeks later was beyond anything the old government could have imagined. Ships that shimmered with impossible technologies, crews representing dozens of species working in perfect harmony, and most remarkably, human commanders who showed no anger or resentment toward the beings who had exiled them. Admiral Lisa Parker, Tony's daughter who had been born during the Exodus years, coordinated the defense from her flagship, the Redemption. She had grown up hearing stories about the Council's rejection of humanity. But when she looked at the threatened worlds below, all she saw were billions of beings who needed help. All coalition ships. "This is Admiral Parker," she broadcast as the fleet moved to intercept the Devourer machines. "Our mission is simple. Protect every life, save every world, show them what the coalition stands for." The battle lasted 6 months, but it wasn't the desperate struggle the Council had expected. Coalition ships moved through space like dancers, using technologies that made the ancient Devourers look slow and clumsy. Weapons that could rewrite matter at the atomic level turned the seemingly unstoppable machines into harmless metal rain. More importantly, coalition forces fought with a coordination the galaxy had never seen. Human tactical thinking combined with Kalari biotechnology, Crom engineering, and innovations from a dozen other species created a military force that didn't just win battles. It made war itself look outdated. The final Devourer stronghold fell on a Monday morning, destroyed by a combined assault that involved ships from 3 different galaxies working together, as if they shared a single mind. When the last ancient machine went dark, the Council worlds were safe, but the political landscape of the galaxy had changed forever. Prime Zethkar's final act as Council leader was to formally dissolve the government that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Standing in the same chamber where he had banished humanity a decade earlier, his crystal form had lost all its light and looked gray with age and regret. "We cast out those who could save us," he announced to the assembled representatives. "We chose fear over hope, control over cooperation. Today we asked to join something better than what we destroyed." The ceremony took place in the same council chambers where Jake Morrison had received humanity's banishment 10 years earlier. But now those chambers had been transformed into a coalition embassy, decorated with art and symbols from dozens of species working together. Ambassador Tony Parker stood where his predecessor had been humiliated, but he felt no victory or revenge. Only sadness for the years that had been wasted and hope for the future. That was finally beginning. The TAI, Coalition of the Willing, welcomes all beings who choose cooperation over domination, he announced, as former council species lined up to sign membership agreements. "We judge no one for past mistakes, only for future choices." As the old council flags were lowered and coalition banners took their place, Tony thought about the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had been cast out for helping others when the rules said no. They had been punished for choosing what was right over what was safe. The council had watched as humanity departed forever, thinking they were ridding themselves of a dangerous element. Instead, they had watched humanity transform from a single species begging for acceptance into the leaders of a galactic civilization that spanned multiple galaxies. In the end, the Council's rejection had become humanity's greatest gift. They had been forced to build something better than what they had lost, and in doing so, they had shown the entire galaxy what was possible when beings chose courage over fear, hope over despair, and cooperation over control. The judgment was finished, but the real story was just beginning.